It is Nihal Sarin starting with white. What approach are you expecting from him? He looks calm, almost meditative, Tanya.
Almost looks like he's had a sleepless night, David Howell. I mean, everything that happened yesterday as well. Both these players know one loss and it's goodbye Paris. For Nihal, it's going to be about controlled complexity in this one, not chaos for the sake of it, not just gambling away the position. He has to make sure it's a long game and then try to capitalize in those final few minutes. There's a reason he's called the Flash.
Oh, and the Flash, just in a flash here, he plays the London system, an infamous opening. It's now the Jabava London system with White's Knight coming out, a Bishop coming out too. And yeah, there we go. The first big threat of the game. White's Knight jumping out, hitting a pawn. That was defended, but Black's Knight now stuck at the edge of the board. Quick moves from both players, Tanya. This is regarded as a quite testing opening. Not too much mainline theory, nothing too forcing. But already Nihal has set out his stall.
We're in Paris, but the London is on the board. Now, traditionally, this opening was considered quite a strategic one. But I think the approach that Nihal has taken with bringing the knight forward, the bishop out, the Jabava variation of it, guarantees excitement early on. We already see Black's knight jumping forward for Wei, taking control of that central square. You can't let that piece stay there for too long. Find a way to challenge it.
Exactly, and that will likely happen, whether it's a white knight that challenges that black knight in the center, whether it's a bishop. Nihal will try to remove it from the board in the next few moves. Don't they know we're in Paris? This is not the London.
Wrong city, guys.
Exactly. Why play the London system here in France? But okay, the bishop steps out instead. White is getting ready to castle. Nihal Sarin. Big question though, what happens if black kicks out his knight from the b5 square? I'm expecting a pawn to hit that knight. Ask a big question. There we go. The knight goes back to the edge of the board. But maybe some checks available to the black queen now.
Well, the white king is still in the center, so this is the moment if you want to create those activities, that initiative against it. You could come out with a check. You could also start targeting the b2 pawn with your queen. Just make sure Nihal doesn't get enough time to get the king to safety.
Yeah, Wei Yi with black. Maybe a small initiative for him. The eval bar shows for the first time that black might have a small advantage. That shows things could flow, things could change. I think if white gets one more move, castles, that could very well be reversed. Tanya, this might be the moment for Wei Yi to wake up and go for it.
It feels like that, right? You've completed your development for the most part. Your king is safe. You've got that one move opportunity right now. I'm expecting the black queen to choose one of the two squares. It does go for a threat against that b2 pawn. So for now, Nihal cannot get his king to safety. He needs to spend one more move defending it. And I think meanwhile for Wei, he has to find a way to strike in the center with either the c pawn moving forward or the e pawn.
Exactly. Long-term black will try and push some pawns to try and knock white off balance. In the meantime, the white queen defends that pawn. And Tanya, I'm expecting, as you say, to try and lengthen the diagonal of black's sleeping giant. The dark square bishop is fianchettoed on a nice diagonal. It would be great to open that up. First, more developing moves from both sides.
From both sides, but I have to say it feels less harmonious for Nihal currently with the knight at the edge of the board. The rook hasn't made a single move. The queen coming in the way from connecting the two rooks for white on that home rank right now. Meanwhile, Wei making his intentions clear. c5 is landing with the rook lined up against the white queen.
Yeah, that one is not subtle. He is pretty much declaring his intentions next move, but very hard to stop. Almost a pre-move here for black to push that c-pawn forward, open up the rook that's just moved. Any rook that stares down your queen, you feel a bit uncomfortable, right? The white queen really misplaced, passive, defending just a mere pawn. He tries to build the solid London system pawn structure here, Nihal Sarin, but it feels like the opening has gone wrong for white.
The one good news for white, a case to be made, is the time situation that we have. Just a few extra seconds. At least he's keeping the speed going right now. But David, completely agree. How is the queen getting out of the way? How is the white knight coming into the game? And look at that. We were talking about one central break. Wei Yi is saying, I'm going to keep my options flexible right now. We might even see the f-pawn move one step ahead, the e-pawn landing at the center. And this is Wei Yi just asking questions. The ball is in your court, Nihal. How do you improve your position?
Yeah, very flexible. Wei Yi doesn't want to commit to a set plan here. He wants to ask Nihal exactly what he's doing next before going for a certain plan. Just to show the point of this last move, as Tanya mentions, maybe a black pawn will land on f6 and support a central thrust in the center. Tanya, that looks tempting. Meanwhile, Nihal pushes on the other side of the board. He's clamping down on black's c5 pawn break. That's not allowed anymore. It might be the other one we'll see.
You have to find a way to open those diagonals, open those lines if you're playing with the black pieces right now for way away into White's camp right now. And he instead just again delays that development, delays that break at the center. He reroutes his knight towards the center of the board. Also makes a lot of sense. That knight will hit the white bishop.
Exactly, the knight might come for the bishop. The black pawn now released as well. Knight off the edge of the board is a good thing, but you could also start to chip away, erode the white pawn structure. Just as an aside here, it was actually the best move to sacrifice to blow open the position, according to the computer, but not found. The game goes on.
And that's a tough one to find. You know, you're giving up your pawn. There are two ways to capture it, so fully understandable, because here it's not about being objectively the best, but practically the best, keeping the clock under control as well. And Wei Yi, once again, taking those fast decisions. He's the one who's up ahead on the clock now. The knight comes back, a5 a threat, knight e6 a threat on the board. Nihal Sarin needs to still find a plan.
And there we go. Better late than never. He decides to remove black's best minor piece. We talked about how strong that black knight was on e4 in the center. That will be traded off. And a very healthy move there, it looks like, from Nihal. But maybe it would have been better to play this one about 6-7 moves ago.
Well, did you say a strong knight on e4? Guess what? You can take one, but the other one is headed right there. A different path here. That knight eyeing that d6 central square to consolidate the stronghold on e4 right now. Knight to b5. You capture it. You open a deadly c line for Wei Yi with a big weakness on c3.
Yeah, very interesting move. Creative stuff from Wei Yi there. And yeah, he wants those open lines. He wants some action. He doesn't mind about doubled pawns. That's less of a factor right now. I wouldn't be shocked to see all the knights leave the board in the near future. But yeah, it's a really tense position right now. Still all 32 pieces on the board. And we've played 14 moves.
Not a single trade, not a single capture has happened until this one. Knight takes knight. There was a big threat on that c3 pawn. No good way to defend it. We see one set of knights off the board. I'd be tempted to pick that up with the bishop and not destroy the pawn formation.
Yeah, really surprising the way he thinks. There we see he does capture with his bishop. No reason to double your own pawns there. The bishop quite strong in the center. I don't think we'll see Nihal rush this next decision. It's a big one. If he trades knights, as you say, Tanya, the black rook opens up. He retreats all the way back home, though. And he's saying, okay, that knight might have to go back to its start square. It's going back towards the center. It's going to go towards black's light square bishop on the next move.
It does feel like things have gone wrong for White, David. You know, you look at move 16 is where we are on, and it's only the bishop pair that's out and barely anything beyond the 4th rank right there. So many pieces on home rank for Nihal. He still needs a few moves to complete development. I will point out one idea that he set up, that a-pawn ramming up the board to dislodge the black knight, dislodge the black queen.
Yeah, black's knight might be forced back, the queen being forced back. Normally, when your opponent has to start retreating, you feel that you are the one with the initiative, with the momentum on your side. So Wei Yi will try and stop that, maybe lash out himself, whether that's the black a-pawn, e-pawn. He goes for the central break. The position finally, Tanya, about to explode.
He does it. Nihal was almost asking for this with all these retreating moves. Almost felt like passive play. Wei Yi, beautifully coordinated pieces. The bishops, if they open up, that's not an ordinary bishop. That's going to be a sniper on the board.
Oh, it will indeed. And Nihal now just needs to eliminate that pawn. That pawn push, too strong. Whether he takes it with his own pawn, there we go, or with the bishop. Maybe all roads lead to the same thing. But, okay, we're seeing some trades, some lines opening. The sniper bishop, the archer from afar, has been traded off. Neither side really controls the dark squares now. But as we said, the white knight coming towards the center could trade off for the black bishop if given the chance next move.
And I'm also going to point out for Wei Yi, there is another break that Nihal always has to watch out for. The c-pawn moving forward, something we've been advocating for a while, is always in the air for now. Wei Yi consolidates the center further, brings his knight back. If there's a trade of bishop, he will take that square with his knight. The rook beautifully placed as well for a rook lift, eyeing the king side. Still looking really healthy for Wei Yi.
Still very healthy. Evaluation bar says 0.0. Frustrating. It says it's totally level, but the position does have some imbalances. Tanya, who are you picking right now if you had to decide with the board clock situation?
Putting me on the spot with the clocks the way they are. Wei Yi, almost an extra minute there. David, look at the way the pieces are. Each of Wei Yi's pieces better placed than Nihal's. I'm taking black for now.
Exactly. And that's my point too. Like, black's position looks super healthy. Extra minute counts for a lot at this stage, although you are playing a speed demon like Nihal Sarin. And, okay, a modest pawn push there, but it's not just black with the pawn breaks. White does have the c-pawn that can launch forward too. Black has the stronghold in the center. Maybe white is going to start challenging that. White's pieces passive, they need to come to life in the next few moves.
And I'm also going to point out, even if all the minor pieces go off the board with just the majors left in the position, it is going to be Wei with the more active queen and rooks right there with the better pawn formation, with easier targets. So it's just going to be a really long game. And then that clock situation, the clock economy will matter.
I love it. Clock economy. We saw some really ruthless flagging yesterday from the likes of Hikaru Nakamura. Often the clock has to be used as a weapon, but yeah, we'll see if that does come into play in this game, the first game of this match in the lower bracket. The rooks lined up. Nihal Sarin taking a lot of time, it's got to be said, on this last move. He can improve the white queen. The white rooks need to get into the game at some point. He can maybe trade off the black bishop. Lots of options. He does press the dynamite button, c4 on the board.
There's only so much suffering you can take in the position. You want to break out. You want to break free. You know, you need that space for your pieces to move ahead. And now the first big decision for Wei, does he keep the tension? There is a threat on the board. That pawn was about to move forward with a fork. A decision needed to be made, and it's trade. The center has liquidated.
The center is gone. White has a kingside pawn majority. There's 4 versus 3 on the right flank. It's 3 versus 2 in black's favor in terms of pawns on the left flank. So long term, that could be a role. And especially in rook end games, you see pawns racing down the board. For now, though, still a lot of tension. Wei's position still looks beautiful, but if there's nothing to do next, White's pieces will start improving, activating, mobilizing. What to do with black's pieces?
It almost feels like Wei has maximized everything, and what's next is the big question. But for Nihal, the plan's clear. Now that this bishop that he's beautifully placed on c4, there is a tender spot next to the black king, that f7 pawn. Wei needs to watch out for a queen and a bishop battery in the future being set up. I'm also expecting, given a chance, Nihal will happily trade off his knight for the bishop.
And Wei cannot do the same, of course. Black would love to remove White's strong bishop, but that would be replaced by a white knight, and it would be the first fork of the day. You definitely don't want to take your opponent to fork down here and end up losing material. Wei, we get a close-up, his eyes darting around the board. He's calculating. It looks like he's mainly there we go, looking towards the center of the board where the action is happening. Light squared bishops traded off, makes a lot of sense. Black's rook, very strong in that central square.
We're not giving Nihal the opportunity to trade his bishop for the knight right now, so the material remains in a balance. The piece dynamics, it's now a knight versus knight. The rooks finally get connected for Nihal, and I have to say, it feels like the worst is over for Nihal.
It feels like it's gravitating slowly towards equality. White's queen finally off the back rank. It's been itching to advance for the last 10-15 moves. The white rooks are just a couple of moves away as well from challenging in the center, where he still wants to make the most of his slightly more active pieces, so he chips away at White's pawn structure. But I think you're already looking to the future, Tanya, and you're seeing more exchanges, a bit more safety for Nihal, and clocks a level as well.
And more pieces coming off the board really soon. But the first decision, whose terms do you trade on in this position? Is White going to capture the pawn that's just moved forward, or will he allow Wei to be the one to take by lining up the rook against the black queen currently? White knight also needs to find itself in more active squares. It's the latter choice by Nihal. He does bring the rook in. We see a trade, 1 versus 2, but that pawn that Nihal has, it does stop Wei's pawns from moving up the board.
Yeah, pros and cons. It stops black from advancing, but it is an isolated pawn. Could become a bit weak later. That's what Wei will be hoping for. And I've got to say, Tanya, this is such a classic first game in a 2-game match. You know, Nihal didn't want to take too many risks. It's slow, it's steady. Both sides unsure of their risk appetite. Neither side really going for it yet. Although here, Wei advancing his queen, a nice blockading square. Yeah, often these types of positions, they do come to life a bit later when the clocks tick down. We were talking earlier about that 1-minute mark. If it becomes bullet, this could really explode, and anything could happen.
And I'd be scared for Wei in that situation. It could spiral out of control after what we saw yesterday go down in Wei versus Ali Reza right there. And that's got to be something that's haunting him. Nihal Sarin, I think one of his biggest strengths will be he will be relying on to get to those final few seconds. When it gets to a time scramble, few can take over Nihal right now. And that move makes this queen the most active piece. Black needs to watch out that diagonal.
Exactly. That move showed the match strategy. Trading queens was probably fine as well, but Nihal saying, okay, I want this game to go on. I want it to go as long as possible for the clock to tick down. Still plenty of life left. The game's only just beginning. Nihal Sarin showing that this was his plan all along, just to keep the tension. Wei's queen kicked away now from the center. Nihal, he has one rook that's sleeping. There we go. Activates, tries to trade off Black's super strong rook in the center. And those clocks, they keep ticking.
Really nicely handled this one by Nihal. You know, he's just trading his worst placed pieces for Wei's most active pieces. Now Wei wants to capture that with the knight, centralizing it, also hitting the weakness that you earlier highlighted for Nihal, David, in that position. We might see the knight jump forward, the knight and queen hitting that pawn, which has just moved ahead.
Ooh, and the minority attack, that one pawn that we said was isolated, it is undermining 2 pawns now. Black is the one going to be left with a lone isolated pawn on that flank. Yes, it'll be a pass pawn, but still far away from promotion. That's a target. Suddenly, I really like Nihal's chances. White's king super safe with 4 pawns around it. Black's king maybe slightly more airy. It's very small factors right now, Tanya, but they could begin to add up. It definitely feels like Wei losing his time advantage is also losing the thread of the game, as the white queen now looking very active.
And as we see the clocks reach the 2-minute mark, this is what Nihal does. He keeps the threats going, he keeps the tricks coming, he keeps asking questions and makes those move really quickly. Watch out, the black queen needs to stay connected to the rook. That pawn had to be defended. Might be time to start pushing Wei's queen away. But first, Nihal goes back with his own queen, hitting that knight. I'm expecting either a rook to move forward or the white knight to jump ahead to hit the black queen.
Yeah, that white knight has a beautiful central outpost in the center. And yeah, that black knight, a bit less stable. Black's queen forced all the way back. It definitely feels like the flow is in Nihal's favor here. Wei, it feels like he's just trying to tie up his own pieces in knots. The black queen, runs away. The first big mistake, and Nihal now, after this question mark move, can jump his own knight out of the way. Discovered attack against black's piece in the center. He goes one way. There was actually an even better move. Let's show it quickly. Nihal could have obtained a huge advantage by not going left, but by going right to f5, again threatening some forks. And here, rook to e5 would not have been possible. Let's show the difference. Rook takes knight, and we would have seen a potential queen sacrifice and a fork to end this variation. Let's go back to the game, though. Still looking good for Nihal Sarin, but it could have been even better.
Absolutely, and I think Nihal completely realized that. He set himself up for a repetition, but Wei said, no way, Nihal. He denied that, and now he's back in the game. All the problems with the forks have been solved with Wei regrouping his pieces. What a missed opportunity for Nihal right there.
That was big, and although the white knight could have jumped and been captured, white would have just had a superior pawn structure, dominant endgame. Yeah, now suddenly it's Nihal down 10 seconds, and I can't help but look at the clock. It feels like one of those super close games. It will be decided by the finest of margins. I think actually, despite the fact it's roughly level, a draw may be the least likely result right now.
I completely agree with that, David. I think we're heading into decisive territory here. An attack on that b6 weakness that you have, the lone pawn. And Wei says, I'm going for counterplay. You take that pawn, you lose your rook on the first rank. The rook will line up against the white queen. Of course, Nihal spots the tactic. He comes back, consolidates the center.
Yeah, that would have been a greedy move. White's queen taking a pawn. He would have got skewered. And of course, he spots it. Very sharp tactically, Nihal Sarin. Both players are. The black king instead moving 1 square forward. But I just don't like the black king position. It's on an open diagonal, could be hit by some knight checks. It's within checking distance. It feels so loose for Wei. White's king, meanwhile, so safe. It means moves can be quicker, more instinctive. One of the clocks finally goes red under the 1-minute mark. Nihal, it's a bullet game now.
This is absolute bullet territory, and the most important factor when that happens is king's safety, and that's why Wei's planted his queen next to the king, just making sure there are no discovered checks for now. Can Nihal build the pressure? He needs to find a way to kick that knight out. He does it.
He does it, but at the cost of weakening, loosening the white king ever so slightly. The black knight is being forced back. There are still tactics. White's queen really cannot dream of taking that black pawn. There'll be some checks. Black's rook will be able to check the white king on the back rank. Deflection tactic. I'm not sure whether we'll see that. The black knight really nearby as well, making Nihal feel uneasy. The black knight, though, only 1 square to go back to. Only move territory. If it chooses the wrong square, white obtains a big advantage. Might trap that knight.
He does it, he goes the wrong way, and Nihal does not pause. He could have won that knight in 1 move by pushing his pawn, but instead he gets greedy at the wrong moment.
Oh, we're seeing the mistakes creep into both players and their moves now. That knight would have been trapped by pawn to g4. But white now, still with a big advantage, Nihal. Extra pawn, more centralization. The black king lined up on the diagonal. Wei Yi in big trouble, but with 10 extra seconds, Tanya.
And Nihal with 20 seconds on the clock, and he converts this. Or are we heading for more blunders in this game? The queen and the knight lined up against the white black king right now. Maximum pressure on Wei Yi. He walks into a fork. He's about to lose a rook.
It's Fork Town. That black rook is gone. There's some checks, though. Can Nihal dodge? He blocks with his queen. The queen perfectly placed as a defender. The checks continue, though. Oh, 10 seconds for Nihal. He's got an extra rook. Surely he should win this.
He should, but there is no should when you're down to 7 seconds on the clock. Wei Yi is playing the flagging game, and just like that, Nihal blunders, and he's right back. Not enough pawns in the position, not enough time on the clock. It's 5 seconds for Nihal Sarin.
And now Nihal Sarin cannot win. He only has a knight. You cannot deliver checkmate, but just in time. 5 seconds left. It's a draw.
What an absolutely insane finish. That was a roller coaster of the game, and you could see it on Nihal Sarin at the end, the disappointment of it all from a completely winning game. And this is what the clock does to you in this format.
Oh, we talked about how Nihal uses the clock as a weapon, so speedy, a bullet champion. But in the end, it was the clock that held him back. That was a tough position. He should really have won with an extra rook. I think ordinarily he would be taking that game home, but Wei Yi, credit to him for finding counterplay, finding resources, and not making it easy.
He played the board, he played the clock, he set up the tricks, and it all paid off in the end. The final game between these two players. If it's a draw, we'll have an Armageddon. If it's decisive, one of them will go through one key, will get crushed.
Oh, yeah, no room for further error. That was such a nervy game. We said it. It looked like such a cagey encounter, neither side really doing too much for the first 8-9 minutes. It felt like they were just waiting for the clocks to tick down, but wow, what an explosion it was. That was a tactical minefield, and ultimately both players surviving, but barely.
It felt like for the first 9 minutes, we had a completely different gameplay, and that last bullet territory, we were watching something from a different planet right there. Both players barely taking a second to make their move. Wei Yi so calm, so controlled in his approach, and I think that's one of his biggest assets. For Nihal Sarin, he has to let go of everything that's happened in that game one and do the same and a little bit more in this game two.
Exactly, same but slightly quicker for Nihal. That's going to be his attempt, his strategy for the next game. If he just had 5-10 seconds extra on his clock, he would have won. For Wei Yi, the chess side of it, the middle game didn't quite go according to plan, got slightly outplayed, so maybe he'll be trying to play a bit more on the front foot as the game kicks off. Wei Yi also opening with his queen's pawn. We see a queen's gambit, no London system this time.
Not at all an interesting approach by Nihal. The first 3 moves made by the pawn, keeping things flexible, taking away some development squares for the bishop, landing on f4 now. We see a quick trade that's about to happen in the position.
Yeah, I said no London system. The white bishop then came out to f4 immediately, got traded off. But yeah, this is still relatively well-known territory of the Queen's Gambit declined. And Nihal here with black looking very solid. Wei Yi with white delaying castling, interestingly, keeping all of his options open here as the black queen steps back. And Nihal, that looks like a slightly tentative move. Still needs to get developed on that queenside flank.
He does, and he did exactly that in game one, just delaying his development, and it got him into a bit of pressure right out of the opening. Wei Yi trying to find the way to do exactly that same narrative that we saw earlier. Is this the moment that we see a trade at the center? Will he bring his bishop out? Very often for white, you want to delay the development of the light squared bishop before there's a decision between those two central pawns.
Exactly. If you bring out your bishop too early, there might be a trade. You have to move the bishop a second time. You lose a tempo. And although maybe one move here, one move there doesn't matter that much, it's still frustrating to have kind of lost a move. So now if black trades off the pawn on c4 on white's terms, the bishop comes out in one sweeping movement and white gets castled quicker. So useful move with the queen. I'm expecting black to try not to capture yet. Although, yeah, lots of choice here for Nihal Sarin.
Slightly surprised with this early thing that Nihal has gone into an opening that he should be very well prepared when he makes all these pawn moves. Now he's looking for more space on that left flank, looking for ways that when he does capture that c4 pawn, the b pawn will move 2 steps forward with momentum.
Exactly. Now he's saying to Wei Yi, please break the tension, do it on my terms. I think we will likely see a capture. There are many strategies where you could step forward with the white c-pawn. You could wait a little bit longer, but you don't want to wait too long. And especially while the white king is still planted on its home square. Okay, again, it feels like we'll get a similar type of game, Tanya, to the first one, where maybe a quieter start, nothing too dramatic, but surely, eventually, it will come to life.
I'm so surprised, David, with everything that we saw in game one between these two players. Nihal is the kind of player with under 20 seconds on the clock. He could be dead lost, and he finds ways to turn that around. He was down and up an entire rook in this one. And talking about crazy things happening, it's Wei Yi who's exploding this position. The G-pawn moves ahead. There's a hook in the position. He's coming for G5. The white rook ready to line up against the black king.
Wow, Tanya, you were saying the first game was surprising. This last move, surprising, firstly, that it was played by Wei Yi. Secondly, that it gets given a question mark. That is a typical type of move in some of these structures, especially when a king has committed itself and White's king a bit more flexible. But here, White's king is never going to the queen side. That's stuck in the center. That option is gone. Black hasn't done that much wrong, but I guess there is a hook, and oh, I think the acid test is either trying to take this pawn or doing something quick, active in the center. Flank attack, normally the antidote is a central strike.
And this is the moment Nihal needs to decide on either of those two options. But David, I will say that this is typical, like you said, of this opening. I'll also say very typical of this time format. Even if objectively, even if the computer doesn't approve of it, these are the kind of questions you need to ask your opponent to force them to burn the clock, because that is a decisive factor, just posing these very complex troubles early on.
Exactly, and now the whole point is if this pawn is captured by the Black Knight, then Black's Knight has lost control over the center, so White would be able to take back, and the game continues. Central pawn for flank pawn, White gets the open G-file to stare down at the Black King as well. Makes a lot of sense, a bit scary, but if you don't take this pawn, it could be even scarier. Another option would be to trade off in the center, but most likely White will step forward, and a White Knight combined with a Queen, there's checkmating ideas, for now covered by the Black Knight. But still, this is what Wei Yi wants, and we have another move instead, that central strike, and it's pure chaos now on the board.
I love it. Love to see this. Wei Yi is going on the right flank, and with his king in the center, Nihal's decided he wants all those open lines as possible, and now it's on Wei Yi. Does he capture a pawn? Which one is it going to be? Either ways, Black gets activity against the white king, who reaches first to the party.
Oh, who reaches first? Normally, I'm inclined to say the king in the center is the one that's less happy, but Wei Yi, it is his move. White has slightly better development. Both knights out. White's queen looking pretty decent. White is going to strike on that king side. Wei Yi, he took a massive risk with this pawn push. He's backing himself, maybe because he thought he got outplayed in the previous game, wants to do something a bit different here. But Tanya, this is such a high responsibility decision. If this backfires for Wei Yi and he gets punished, it's self-inflicted.
Absolutely, and that's a very smart choice, a response by Nihal Sarin right there, pushing the c-pawn, not going for the expected pawn trade or a pawn capture like you were earlier highlighting, and now Wei Yi's decision to take the c5 pawn. Nihal can capture either the g4 pawn or the c5 pawn, but he says, I'm not greedy like that, I just want my pieces into the game. He wants to start expanding the e pawn ahead, the d pawn ahead.
Wow, that's such a calm move from Nihal, who closes his eyes there. He could have captured 3 different pawns. Pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn, queen takes pawn. Could have done anything. He said none. He didn't want any of them developing his priority. But now, after this last move, Wei Yi is finally ready to pull that trigger, push the g-pawn forward, g for go, and the Black King sweating.
It really is. You're looking at all those options. It's time for Nihal to pick up one of the pawns in the center, get the pieces into the game. Wei Yi, as always, looking like a chill customer right now as he's calculating what happens once the g-pawn moves up the board. Is Nihal going to capture with his queen, or will we see a pawn takes pawn?
Oh, both of those must be at the top of his agenda. He needs to do something, Nihal. He's about to get attacked. He's also temporarily a pawn down with Black. A bit of a shake of the head from him, maybe regretting he hadn't clarified the tension just one move earlier. But his position should still be fine. He just needs to keep up that speed, not allow it to become a one-sided attack.
And it could very well become a one-sided attack. We're talking about the g-pawn moving forward for Wei Yi. He could reinforce that with the h-pawn moving ahead first, and that comes with that much more firepower once g5 does arrive. It is big pressure on Nihal Sarin, who's down by a minute on the clock.
Yeah, it's very hard here for Black. The worst placed piece is probably the Black light squared bishop. That's often the case in the Queen's Gambit. Black's bishop still at home, still asleep. That blocks in a rook. And until you solve the problem of those two pieces, you're essentially fighting one or two of your army down. And right now, Wei Yi's activated almost everything. White's bishop is about to come to life as well. It definitely feels like this is the first critical position Nihal needs to come up with something clever.
critical on the board and in his mind as well, because he's got to be kicking himself with what a let go of an opportunity it was in round one, and he finds himself in big trouble under big pressure on that G line right out of the opening in game 2.
Yeah, he should be 1 point up on with kind of 1 foot in that next round, but instead it's level footing. He could be about to be leaving Paris if Nihal doesn't speed up, doesn't find a good move here. Maybe the most logical would be to trade off those pawns. There's been too much tension. Too much has been kind of hanging in the air there, especially lower on time now, Nihal, by 2 minutes. You need to clarify things, simplify things, make your next few moves easier, trade off pawns. Just decide. It has to be one of the white pawns on the C-file, those double pawns that's captured. He takes with the queen instead. That's fine too, but it took a bit too long.
And how much of a problem is that going to be for Nihal? It was a critical moment with so much pressure on him right now. And for Wei, will he go direct? Will he push the G pawn? Or will he make it even more troublesome by first advancing the pawn next to it and then threatening a very deadly blow on that knight on the king side? Nihal Sarin has to be calculating all of that because he is down by about 2 minutes on the clock as well. David, H4 or G5? One of these two moves is about to happen.
Definitely, Tanya. Especially, he said G, why not say H as well? And the one move I'm not expecting is a trade of pawns in the center. That would just allow the black knight to recapture. Pieces would come off the board. That's not why he played G4. And there we go. He pushes 1 square further. He's all in on the attack.
G5 and we live, and I'm expecting him to counter Nihal's idea. If he captures that pawn with his rook, he just makes sure that Nihal's pawn in the center is paralyzed. The X-rayed by the rook on G5, hitting that queen and also eyeballing the black king on the G line.
Makes a lot of sense there. Normally you would want to maybe take with the knight, but that would have given black a lot more options. This 5th rank, this lateral pin, really nice. Kind of freezes black somewhat. And here, how is Nihal going to continue his development? How's he going to wake up those sleeping black pieces? The queen vulnerable, so much on the to-do list, but so little time. We see there Wei Yi with 94.6% accuracy in a crazy position like this. Very impressive.
Super impressive. He is one of the youngest players to ever break the 2700 barrier in the history of chess, known as the attacking prodigy of the game. And I think this is one of those masterpieces in the making if he's able to finish off this attack. For now, Wei Yi has given up the rights to castle for the rest of his game. That king is going to stay in the center. So if the attack doesn't come to fruition, that could be big problems for White's king.
Castling is overrated anyway. Castling is so last year, out of fashion, out of vogue. But okay, the black queen goes back. That's not a pawn sacrifice. If White takes everything on the d5 square, captures a pawn, takes with his knight, at the end, the black knight would leap forward, come to b4 with a fork. The last thing White wants to do here is to open up black's bishop. So just to put this on the board, this is not a sacrifice. If there's a capture, yet another capture, this would be a huge mistake, a blunder, and at the end of the day, a fork. And we've seen forks in this in the first game. This would be something to avoid for Wei Yi. That explains his last move as well. Pawn to a3, covers the b4 square, no more knight jumps.
That is full board awareness. It just felt like all the action was happening on the right flank and you're focusing on Nihal's king, you're focusing on how do I get my other rook on that G line, but no, that's not Wei Yi. He sees the entire board and pieces it together. He now puts pressure on that central d5 pawn. Notice how every move has come in with a threat.
Exactly. That is really calm as well. Not just full board awareness, but to kind of play on one side, then take a timeout, play on the other side. To feel that you have that time as a luxury. It's, yeah, very impressive. And Nihal does take that time that he's been given to at least centralize his rook. It does feel like this is hanging in the balance. I do worry about the clock, just based on what we saw in the first game from Nihal Sarin. But for now, things are still under control.
It's under control, and I do worry about Wei Yi's king. I will again point this out, that unless Wei Yi's attack on that right side, and I'm not really seeing the way forward here, how do you get to it? Because knights are a king's best friend. You've got a beautiful defender on f6, the queen close enough as well, keeping everything safe and intact. But meanwhile, Nihal's got plans of his own. The d-pawn's about to break through, the e-pawn's about to move forward, the bishop's about to come into the game. This is a 3-result game, David Howell, with draw being the least likely of it.
Definitely. We said that earlier, a draw was the least likely. Of course, it ended up being a draw after some real twists and turns. One side being up a rook, then suddenly the clock playing a factor. This one, I agree, a draw the least likely. We see a trade, finally, of pawns, but Nihal has timed it really, really well. Now rooks are about to leave the board, as we see here, and White essentially has gone all in on an attack that just hasn't really materialized. White's rook not coordinating with the rest of his pieces. And I'm expecting the white bishop now to come out, regain the pawn, restore the material balance. But there we'll see black advancing with gain of time, with tempo, pawn to b5, bang, the black bishop finally coming to life.
It does, and that comes with a threat as well. The white knight will be on pre on f3, so two developing moves. The rook ready to line itself up against the queen. We'll see all of this play out. And like you were saying, the rook on g5, it looks really beautiful. It looks like an attacking piece, but there's no assist to that attack. There's no firepower pushing it through right now, and it feels like Nihal's taking over the initiative.
Exactly, and that's why we say all-out attack, all-in, everything like that, because if it doesn't work, you're just left with weaknesses. Not only has white gone for this attack and nothing else really panning out, but white has an isolated pawn, white's king stuck in the center, white's rook, kind of, the board's cut in half. White's rook, queen on opposite flanks for Nihal Sarin. Everything kind of defending each other right now, everything centralized, looking slightly better on both board and clock right now.
It's looking really nice for Nihal, but I'm going to make a case for Wei Yi's attack here, trying to find a plan. But it takes 3 moves. David, that H-pawn that we were talking about, give Wei Yi a couple of moves. H4, H5, H6 is the dream for white. Do you think he has enough time to achieve it?
Ooh, Esports World Cup, that's where dreams become reality. Maybe, Tanya. I say maybe because it takes so long, and often you don't get that in chess. In the meantime, black would be creating some threats of his own, but he's got to try it. Wei Yi, I agree. At some point now, he's going to move his knight out the way, and he might be able to throw his H-pawn forward. There we go, into the center. White's rook is undefended, so I'm a bit scared, but I don't think black can take advantage of that yet. More likely the black knight or the black rook still stuck on the 8th rank. They are going to start moving now.
Very brave. LPDO, loose pieces drop off, but Wei Yi says you don't have any attractive knight jumps, and for now, Nihal waits with the rook development. He challenges the active knight on e5. You look at Nihal, you know he's feeling comfortable with his position right now. Knight c6, you trade, the bishop will capture.
And nearly 97% accuracy for Nihal Sarin. Despite that early shock, suddenly getting attacked out of the blue, he's answered it perfectly. Over 97% now with his last couple of moves. And H4, we called for it, Tanya. The most logical, most human plan. Not only defending the white rook, but maybe even going further with that battering ram of a pawn, given a question mark.
That's surprising to see, and I say we take that question mark, chuck it out of the window, because this is the most human move. You said EWC, nothing is granted, everything is earned, and to earn this point, he needs to get that pawn closer to the black king.
He really does, but does he get that time? Now offering a trade of all of the minor pieces. White's queen is opened up, staring at the black bishop. This pretty much forces some trades. The black knight was just too good a defender. I think Wei Yi was impatient to get past it, but now the bishop, is it actually better than a knight?
David, it's also the king position. Bishop versus knight, king versus king. And again, the point we've been highlighting, white's king is suddenly the more unsafe one. Even if you trade the last set of minor pieces, it will be the black queen that's ready to seize the C open line coming in with some checks. This is advantage black.
Definitely. In major piece endgames, heavy pieces here, queens and rooks, it's all about king safety. Black simply has more shelter. 3 pawns in front of the king. Given a question mark, I agree, Tanya, maybe the queen could have found a different path in, but here it is, teaming up with his rook, so a very natural move, and surely here, Wei Yi needs to get his king out of the center. Finally, shuffling across, he's going to try and castle by hand. He's going to try and pretend he castled by getting the king over, but not allowed. Queen into h2, swooping in.
Access denied to do just that, David Howell. What a move this is, getting the queen closer to the king, also eyeballing that h4 pawn. Now the white king finds shelter at the center of the board. And if Nihal wants, he could propose a draw, a repetition by falling back with the queen from where it came from. But knowing Nihal, he's not going to go for that idea. I think he wants more here.
Oh, the fans want Armageddon, they want more chess, but does Nihal want that too? Or does he want to keep going, take his chances here? Evaluation bar back to level now, because black did have a slightly better route forward, but he's offering to repeat the position. He's threatening checkmate in 1 move. Queen coming down to d1 at the bottom of the board. The white king has to run.
It has to run either up or down the board. Queen to d1 will be game over. If Wei Yi wants to take this to the Armageddon, he can just fall back where he comes from, and then the ball in Nihal's court. Looking at him, I feel like Armageddon is very likely, but Wei Yi is the one who gets ambitious here.
Wow, it looked like he was swatting away a fly there on the camera, Wei Yi. Or maybe he's trying to G up the fans, but the position repeating. Second time we've seen this position. If the black queen goes back, Nihal is pretty much happy with the draw. Wei Yi, I think, here, draw makes a lot of sense for him with such a weak king. Could we be going the distance? Will we get more chess? Is this the end of this game?
Very likely. You're talking about the weak king. Long term, your pawn's not doing amazing as well if you're Wei, and we see that. Queen to h2. Get that queen back, and one more time, it will be game over. That will be a 3-4 repetition if Wei falls back with the king.
Oh, clockwise there, almost level as well. I think Wei Yi here just has to hedge his bet, say, my king's too open, that white king will not survive. And there we go, it is a third time, the position repeats, it's a draw, we go to Armageddon.
It's an Armageddon. It goes down to the wire with both these players just pushing each other to their limits. What a battle this has been in these first two games that we've seen right now. And now it means for Nihal and Wei Yi, little time to reminiscence, little time to think about. They need to give in their clock bids.
Exactly, they're bidding for time now. The lowest bid will get the black pieces in the next game, will get draw odds. So 2 results, a win or a draw, would get them through. Nihal, it feels like he was on the front foot towards the latter part of this game. He was definitely on the front foot in the first encounter today. Despite 2 draws, he might feel he's the better player right now. How risky does he go with his bid, Tanya?
How low can you go is always the question with Armageddon. Anything below 7 minutes to get those black pieces is always a shocker for me, David. I'm expecting around a 7.5 to a 7.40 mark bid by Nihal, and similar for Wei Yi right now. You know, the funny part is for the first 2 games, both of us said draw is the least likely outcome, and that's the narrative the games took. So I'm not sure if our predictions mean anything at this point.
Yeah, maybe that will make them braver and want the black pieces, want those draw odds. The fact that even crazy positions do seem to go towards a draw at 7.28. Wow. 7.28 from Nihal Sarin. We'll get Wei Yi's bid in a second.
So around the 7.5 minute mark, trying to get the black pieces makes a lot of sense. I think that's a safe bid. Looking at 2 draws that have happened, getting that result odd. Will Wei Yi win the mind battle? Will he outbid Nihal? And he outbids him. He goes 7-9. Wei Yi starts with the black pieces. Nihal, 10 minutes on the clock, will take white.
Wow, Nihal Sarin will be in a must-win situation. That is brave from Wei Yi. Yesterday, we saw an almost reckless bid from Alireza Firouzja, not just once, but twice, going under the 7-minute mark. Wei Yi just above 7 minutes, but that's a 3-minute deficit. He will be banking on the fact he holds on, but the first game today, he had black, nearly lost. That was with level time. He's got to do it again, but with that clock handicap.
The format's so deadly, we call it Armageddon in chess, and this is it, David. At the end of this game, 1 key will be crushed. For Wei Yi, there's no other path. He has to play for win. A draw will not suffice. What does he have? Up his sleeves.
Now it's going to be a difficult one for both. There's going to be nerves jangling. Armageddon is everyone's favorite format. And yeah, that key crushing will occur just after this game. But whose key will survive? Which team will be celebrating come the end of this encounter? Whose journey will continue? Nihal looking very focused now. Looks locked in.
He has to be locked in. It's the Allianz vault right now to get that win with white. Absolutely critical, or the end of his dream here in Paris for Nihal Sarin. What a match it has been for these 2 players. Nihal starting with the white pieces. Are we expecting another Jabava London?
Oh, I think whatever we're going to get, he's going to keep the pieces on the board. That's clearly been his strategy. Armageddon, you normally go very direct, attack from move 1, or you play a bit slower. Keep all the pieces on the board, prolong the game, hope that you maintain your 3-minute time advantage right till the death when the opponent's clock ticks down, then change the pace, then go for blood. But yeah, I think it's the latter strategy. Nihal with that Jabava London, he kept a lot of pieces on for a long time. It was slow, it was steady, and he wanted his chances only later. I think, if not the Jabava London, something equally kind of along that vein, keeping the pieces on the board.
This promises to be a thrilling battle. Now, one player who needs to be steady but not slow is Wei Yi with 7 minutes and 9 seconds on the clock. David, that is so borderline of how low you can go for the black pieces right there. So speed, absolutely critical in the first 15 minutes. And it's go time. It's Armageddon.
It's go time. Armageddon, let's get it on. There we go. Knight's coming out. It's the Reti opening from Nihal Sarin. He simply keeps those pieces on as we predicted. He's going to get his king castled. And black now is also going to Fianchetto. This gives white a lot of options, Tanya. But I think this was something that maybe could have been predicted by Wei Yi, that Nihal is happy to go slightly offbeat, not direct here, not allowing Wei Yi to trade off all the pieces early.
And eventually we will see a trade right now. I like that approach, David. Keep as many of them as possible. Get Wei Yi low on the clock before making critical decision. We see the first imbalance in the position with Nihal's central pawn moving forward, lined up against that black bishop. Be careful, jumps, but till that d5 pawn is tender, Nihal is safe.
Exactly. And we'll see exactly what he has in store here. Bringing out the queen like this must be opening preparation. The speed with which Nihal Sarin is making his moves. He's definitely surprised Wei Yi here. Wei Yi spending a little bit more time than his opponent. That's not a good sign. Being surprised as black when you're already down on time, that is the worst case scenario. But the white queen is a target, looks a bit clumsy. Black's bishop coming out to hit a pawn. White's knight stepping back. And you mentioned d5, Tanya. Black's central pawn under heavy fire right now.
It really is, and it isn't comfortable to defend that with moving your e-pawn ahead. That could trap that bishop on the light square, which just came out for Wei Yi. Instead, he brings the queen out. He's eyeballing that pawn next to the white king. Some knight jumps, but it is a pawn sacrifice.
It is a sacrifice. Black's compensation is that the pieces will come to nice squares, nice centralization. White's queen a bit offside. White's got multiple pieces still asleep on the back rank. So time, I guess he's trading off for this pawn sacrifice. But the acid test is surely to take it. Nihal, he can't really develop his pieces. White's dark squared, bishop stuck, rook stuck. You have to take the pawn, cling on and hope.
Someone tell Nihal about piece development in openings. I mean, all three games, what we've seen, the narrative right out of the first 15 moves, multiple pieces on the home rank.
Exactly.
That's not how chess is supposed to be played, David Howell.
That being said, the top players, they know the rules, so they also know when to break them. Nihal, definitely don't try it at home. That's the vibe of his chess today. Massive risk taken, really asking a lot of his own position and the resources, but he's now a pawn up. At least there's something to cling on to long term. Pressure's on Wei Yi on the clock, but also to justify that pawn sacrifice.
Well, one move that comes to mind, which has a very human approach, line up your rooks on the open lines. The C file I see the D file, which will come with a pin along that central line. Get that rook there. Again, clock's such an important factor here. Wei Yi dropping below the 6-minute mark. He brings the rook from the edge to D8, threatening the e-pawn moving forward. You pin it and you win it. So Nihal needs to watch out.
Yeah, something about that white rook in the center, the fact that it's undefended, he has to kind of protect it now, he has to get pieces out, and yeah, he has to walk a tightrope, it feels like, Nihal Sarin. Put pressure on the pinned piece, as they say. That D-file, massive tension and really awkward pin. What is he going to do to protect his rook?
It's not a comfortable choice to make if you're Nihal Sarin right now. You can't fall back with the bishop. You can't move the other bishop to connect your two rooks because the B2 pawn, also soft in the position, will fall. With dire consequences, that one. Either you over-defend your bishop on D5, move that E pawn ahead or move the C pawn ahead. Very tricky choice to make. Not that much time.
And there we go, multi-purpose move. He blunts the black dark square bishop on the diagonal. The white queen now defends her rook in the center along another diagonal. Very, very healthy move, but black is so active. There might be tactics in the air.
You're looking for them already. You're smelling tactics, and as does Wei Yi. He plants his bishop at the center, and that might look like a sacrifice, but it is a double exclam. That's a brilliancy, the first of this game right now. And the idea is if that white was to capture the bishop, you lose your own key of the position. Pawn takes bishop, rook takes bishop. Lots of weaknesses around the white king, and that d4 pawn hanging as well.
Exactly, and suddenly the white king is a bit airy. The squares around it that look very, very tasty for black's pieces. This is a beautiful severance tactic, cutting the connection between the white rook and its bishop. Not just that, but you're forcing the hand because black is also threatening a pawn with a check. Maybe Nihal's going to have to head into that variation, or maybe he's got something else up his sleeve.
You said pawn with a check? I see a pawn with a check for Nihal Sarin. He could go counter tactics in this position, and then it just blows up. And that's too much for me to handle right now, David. If bishop takes pawn and then you capture the bishop, what are we making of this complication? This is going through Nihal's mind right now.
Definitely, and here black can recapture the pawn in the center. White will be a pawn up, but as we mentioned, with so many sleeping pieces on the first rank, black has definite compensation. Just looking into the future, this might be something we see, and it will be black on the attack to justify the pawn sacrifice. Nihal, burning his time advantage, needs to move fast.
Wei Yi is a deep calculator. Nihal knows exactly when to calculate and when to go on autopilot. And I think this is those critical moments where you need to spend that extra minute. He goes for the more cautious approach. He blunts that bishop out. No bishop takes pawn for you, Wei Yi. He hits it. And is this the moment that you capture the bishop that would allow a pawn takes bishop at the center with a healthy pawn structure for white? I like this approach by Nihal.
Yeah, safer. He was looking at the sharper lines, and we were looking at them too, and we were unsure. He's unsure too, so he keeps it nice and solid. This pawn push, he's hoping to erect a nice pawn wall in the center. A bit of a blockade created on the dart squares. I still like Wei Yi's chances, to be honest, especially because the White King, so many weaknesses, holes around it, but the immediate damage has been averted, and the clocks continue to tick. Nihal is keeping the game alive. 1.5 minutes up. There we go. Bishop's off the board. Opposite color bishops now, but can Wei Yi create any attack at all?
And that damage is eternal. With the light square bishop gone, nobody's fighting for those squares if you're Wei Yi's king right now. So many pieces offside, the other side of the board as well for white currently. And for Nihal, that is big problem. Wei Yi doubles down on the d-file. He's threatening a central break right now. The e-pawn moving 2 steps forward. You're pinning the d4 pawn next. Pressure on Nihal.
Yeah, huge pressure. I wouldn't be surprised to see him over the next 2 or 3 moves kind of spend time, his kind of time in the bank here, invest it here and now, just to ensure survival. Because if you don't stop Black's central pawn break, the e-pawn pushing forward, you might just get knocked out very quickly. All of Black's pieces, this has been the theme of the day, Tanya, all of Wei Yi's pieces, active, centralized. Nihal, coordination minimal, and yes, he's a pawn up, but that's pretty much the only good thing we can say about White's position.
Quality of pieces over quantity of pawns has been the name of the game today. And look at that, you're up a pawn, what do? I'm scared of your attack, I want the queens off the board. I'm expecting Wei Yi to deny that trade right now. Keep the queens on, play for the light squares currently. Getting the queens off will only give Nihal more room to breathe. Oh, he does it.
He does it. This is the match situation, the Armageddon, and the draw odds playing a role. I think Wei Yi, on any other day, if he needed to win, would have kept the queens on. That was probably a better move. But he knows a draw is enough, so he gets the queens off. He's trying to regain his pawn, win back the pawn in the middle of the board. And he feels he's taking less risk here. Makes some sense due to the match situation.
Very professional approach by Wei Yi right there. Trailing the match, he would have never gone for this, but this Armageddon demands it. A draw with black means that Wei Yi continues his path at the EWC. Now Nihal expanding with that pawn. He wants to try to hit the knight. The rook on a1, hitting the pawn on a7, but Wei Yi's piece is beautifully placed to stop any potential threats.
Yeah, all the light squares are covered right now. The light squares, if there's a blockade, you cannot bypass them. How are you ever going to win this game? If all the rooks come off, most likely a draw. Black doesn't rush to regain the pawn. A mysterious bishop move, hitting the white rook. That will likely be blocked by a pawn, and the bishop is going to go further back. I'm not exactly sure what he's trying to achieve here, Tanya, but at least he's trying to get some quick moves, and this was it. A discovered attack, the black rook suddenly on the 5th rank, hitting the white bishop. He got his own bishop out the way first, but this looks maybe a bit too flashy.
And did he take enough time to calculate all of that? I do see the bar went up right after this decision, which means there are potential tactics in the position apart from obvious moves. Now, if Nihal picks up that bishop, that is exactly what Wei Yi's hoping for in this position. But it smells like there's something deeper here. Will Nihal find it?
Yeah, it's fascinating. Earlier there was this weird bishop tension. White's bishop on d5, black's bishop on d4 next to each other. Now there's weird bishop tension again. Both bishops hanging. And most likely here, in order to win this game, Nihal needs to keep as many pieces on the board as possible. Most likely he moves or defends his bishop. More trades, that's more safety for Wei Yi. Closer to the draw and an Armageddon victory. I think he needs to move his bishop, Nihal Sarin.
Absolutely. If you're looking for that win, you need to make a decision that doesn't trade that off. And I'm just looking, and he does exactly that. I'm also eyeing that rook at the center of the board, which can be hit with the c-pawn moving forward. You know, David, the reality is it doesn't have too many squares.
It's getting kicked. The rook moves, mistake apparently, and suddenly Nihal with a big advantage. First big mistake of the game. He has to keep pushing those pawns. Black's pieces are so loose right now.
It's the idea we were talking about when the b-pawn went up the board. You want to destabilize that knight. The white rook beautifully placed without making a single move in the game to pick up that a7 pawn next. Nihal's taking over in this endgame.
Taking over, and look at it, Nihal there on the camera, suddenly stretching. He's hitting the knight. Where does this knight go? If it steps back, then white's knight can start jumping forward as well, hitting the black rook. As we mentioned, the white rook is ready to swoop in and maybe creep in behind with some attacks, checks against the black king. Suddenly everything is hanging, and white can just consolidate. White can just hold the fort. 3 protected pawns about to go up in material, and black's rook is in no man's land, trapped behind enemy lines.
He goes forward though, gets a question mark, but he's getting aggressive. Is Wei right now trying to get behind enemy lines on his turn? I want to point out that suddenly Wei's king also has got the Swiss cheese right there with the black holes.
Black holes that the bishop can come into, but more importantly, Tanya, huge move. The knight is trapped, nowhere to go. You can bring your bishop back and hit it, trap it. This is a huge advantage. You can also bring the bishop forward. So many nice options. He does find it, and here we go. Look at this, rook sacrifice, and the knight will survive, but suddenly Wei Yi losing on material.
That is huge right now. And knight does jump in, hits that white rook. All you need to do is get it to safety. You could choose your own square. Nihal takes a breath. He knows he's so close to continuing his run right now. But he was up a rook in that game one. And he knows it's not over till the last move isn't played against Wei Yi. Which square does he choose? I just think you can even grab that pawn, David.
You can. Plenty of squares for the white rook to use right now. The most impressive thing for me here, Tanya, it's a critical moment. Both of these players' lives on the line. They could be leaving the Esports World Cup, but their heart rate's still pretty low. Wei Yi's has been rising. Nihal's down under the 80 mark, and he finds a great move. The white rook just cements everything. The pawns are protected. He covers the c4 pawn. Black's knight alone is not going to create enough damage. Black's bishop now cannot get greedy. Fantastic move there from Nihal Sarin.
Absolutely. A controlled performance is this one on the heart rate as well. Such an invaluable skill asset to have in this format. Control on the nerves in the position. The bishop denied any activity. Where is Wei Yi going to find it? You could start jumping with your knight, hitting the white rook at that center of the board, but that's just a one mover. As long as Wei Yi's rook remains in his half of the board, I don't see any problem for Nihal.
Exactly, and okay, he's banking everything on this pawn pushing forward. The downside is that it's easily blockaded by White's rook or bishop, and White has control over the dark squares. The White king is going to come soon as well. The Black Knight doesn't really have too many jumps if the White king is able to centralize itself. Wei Yi, he's banking everything on that pawn, Tanya, but it's not enough.
You don't have any assist to get into that second rank. Now that the king has moved away from any potential future knight checks, the black knight can't even find itself on that central square. You would lose that pawn. Instead, Wei Yi consolidates the right flank. No more advancement for you there, Nihal. He captures a massive diagonal on the board. Watch out for any back rank checks.
Wow, Nihal Sarin's accuracy in this game, just incredible. Playing such fantastic moves, and he's really sped up as well. It feels like the danger is past. Look at this, just everything defended, so professional. All the pawns protecting each other now. White's bishop controlling all the key squares. Black's knight, it looks nice, but it's trapped. It simply cannot move. And all he needs now, Nihal, is to find a second avenue of attack. He's material up. White's rooks, if they are able ever to get onto the open lines or towards Black's back rank, it's just game over. GG.
And the one thing stopping all of that from happening is Wei Yi's knight on c2 controlling some key squares for the white rook to find an open line. Meanwhile, Wei Yi's rook doing a defensive job as well. And this is what you were talking about, a big trick in the air. Rook takes knight was a massive threat with the idea of a checkmate.
Ooh, and that has been denied, at least for now. Black's king getting off the 8th rank, so any checkmates will not come with tempo, at least. No checks on the back rank. But look at the white's rook, it's going to zigzag, it's going to sneak back now. It took a few turns, but now it's finally ready to slide across.
At some point, I'm also expecting Nihal to open a different avenue with a move like the g-pawn moving up the board to dislodge that black bishop from defending the central pawn. He's getting ready to do just that as Wei Yi's rook finally steps up.
That is denying a exchange sacrifice. White's rook cannot now take that black pawn, give some material back. He's just waiting though, and maybe now, if he wants to, now is the moment. He's going to be a pawn up with a dominant position. White's bishop way superior than the black knight. There we go, giving back some material to simplify this equation. The white rook is about to enter the 7th or the 8th ranks. Black is in so much trouble here. Wei Yi down to the 1 minute mark. The rook can simply get greedy, start advancing.
It's 6 versus 5 on the pawns, a more active rook, a beautiful bishop dominating that black knight every trump with Wei Yi. For Nihal Sarin, it's going to be about finding the tricks, trying to fork White's position with the lone remaining knight. He first gets the king into the game. For Wei Yi, he needs to start pushing those pawns.
Feels like there must be a way to trap that black knight, but Nihal shouldn't spend too much time trying to do that. He can keep this simple in so many other ways. Okay, he does go back with his rook. The black knight only has 1 safe square. Now he goes up. Okay, still no jumping squares for that black knight, and a pawn hanging on a7 is going to be a 2-pawn advantage and counting. This is looking like he can almost pre-move now, Nihal Sarin, as the clock goes red under 1 minute. But keep things simple, start taking those pawns.
And just don't spend too much time on those decisions right now. He's up 2 pawns. He's setting up a mating idea. The pawn couldn't have been captured. Rook 8 was checkmate, forcing Wei Yi's king out to the center. A trade finally, the H-pawn coming up.
He hits the knight. The rook was hanging, had to counterattack against the white bishop there, which now steps back. The black knight would love to enter the center, but there would be some rook checks. Oh, this is so professional, Nihal. He is going to show us his bullet skills now. The king, the bishop combining, the white rook is going to be doing the damage.
He does hit that third pawn, gives a check, does Wei Yi. The king falls back, but there's no good way to defend that pawn. And that's 3 extra pawns on the left flank as Wei Yi has lost his entire army on that side of the board. Hits the knight. The bishop attacked, simply plants it at the center of the board, gives a check, and both players now under 30 seconds.
Oh, the clock is the only thing really here that can save Wei Yi. He needs a miraculous knight fork. Not easy. The knight can't really ever check the white king, or he needs to flag. But checkmate incoming. The black king is boxed in. The white king coming in. Pawns advancing. Nihal missed this move though. The rook stepping back. He's getting close, but can he put the finishing touches on? Knights and bishops off the board. It's a rook endgame. Still plenty of time to go.
And plenty of pawns to go as well. That's 2 extra pawns, but Nihal needs to win this all over again. It's all about the clock. 12 seconds. Is that time enough for Nihal to win a completely winning position?
2 pawns is too many. He would win this if there were an increment. He would win this on any other day, but 9 seconds now. He needs to make a new queen. He needs to get black to swap off his rook for that pawn. He's given up one of the pawns. He's about to promote.
Were you giving up? Right there, and that's it. Nihal Sarin gets the win in the Armageddon, takes the match, and for Nihal Sarin, he keeps the key. For Wei Yi, it's goodbye Paris.
Wei Yi, this is the end of the road, but Nihal Sarin, the man of the moment, the speed he showed there to turn things around. He was seconds behind on the clock. He was seconds up by the time the game ended, but more impressive was the endgame technique.
Just fantastic stuff there, and it has to be said, Nihal in that game 1, so close to victory. For Wei Yi finding his way back into the match, but the Armageddon was where it settled. Both players really taking this one to the edge. What a hard-fought battle.